So just trying to get this on here. Right, there we are. Okay, this is very, very amateur, as you can see. Hello, welcome to GrandOldTeam TV, coming live from Goodison Park. I'm Adam Partington. You will recognise this fella here, Mr. Graham Stuart. There you go, Graham. Thanks for joining us on GrandOldTeam TV today. So, guys, this is, as I said, live on Facebook, and GrandOldTeam will be sharing it out on their page very shortly, and with the Diamond Geezer. Why did they call you Diamond? Diamond?
Well, it was actually the kitman, Jimmy Martin, who gave me the nickname.
Jimmy Martin? Oh,
Jimmy
he seems
Martin,
like a bit of a character.
I mean, he's a terrific guy, Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy's been here longer than I think anybody on the planet, so he knows the insides and outs of Goodison Park and what have you, but I think it's a Diamond Geezer. The geezer bit was a bit of the London Cockney scenario sort of thing, and it was just decided to call me the Diamond Geezer. So there could have been an awful lot of worse nicknames to have had, so I'll take it.
That makes sense. So, guys, if you're joining us, I'm just waiting for the thing at the bottom. So, at the bottom, Graham, modern technology. This will show us who is talking to us, and it'll show us when it's been shared on GrandOldTeam. I see GrandOldTeam have just shared it now. So, guys, if you're watching, we're live at Goodison Park. I am here with Graham Stuart, as you can see. And we've got a few questions that I've been taking from you guys over the last few days, Graham, on the forum and on Facebook and on Twitter. And also, if you have any questions for Graham, write them in the bottom underneath this video, and I will do my best to get them to Graham. And also, Graham's going to select the best question that he's had at the end of this. And then the person who he selects will get 2 tickets to the Leicester game on Saturday here at Goodison, and hopefully we can progress in the cup. On the FA Cup, Graham, I'm going to ask you straight out, can Everton win it this year?
Of course we can. We've got as much chance as anybody else. Of course you need a bit of lady luck along the way. But I mean, I think, you know, when the draw comes out in the 3rd round, you want a home tie. And everybody looks at it now and goes, oh, we're playing the champions Leicester. But I think sometimes that focuses the mind. And it's a lot better to play a Premier League side, especially the champions in Leicester. Or they're not having the greatest of seasons, admittedly, but sometimes when you play the lower league sides, I found out to my own cost here at Goodison, Bradford springs to mind, that you can get out, because it's a great day out for them. The pressure's all on Everton, and they can just go out and relax and play the football. There's no expectancy on them, and sometimes the old banana skin and you slip up. So I'm quite happy that we're playing a Premier League side.
Yeah, although you say that, I was looking over the fixtures that we had before we won it in '95, obviously, which you were heavily involved in. We'll get to that in a second, because there's a few questions on that, as you can imagine. But the first game we played was Bristol Rovers, was it Bristol Rovers or Bristol City? One of the two.
Well, we played Derby here, didn't we? We played Derby here at Goodison Park and we won 2-0.
Right, and
then we went to Bristol City.
Okay, so is it? I mean, I know we started off with Derby, but like, you know, we played a side there and beat them. That was one of those sides that, you know, you would see was a potential banana split. Let's say.
Yeah.
Could it be that you know, sometimes it's good to get one of those fixtures out the way with as well, to give you a bit of confidence, get moving forward then into the other round?
Well, I mean, I think if you're a Premier League side, you should be confident enough. You know, I think all it comes down to timing as well. We're going to come into the Leicester game off the back of a pretty good Christmas period. So the confidence, if we played them 3 or 4 weeks ago, when we were in a poor run of form and a bit of a rut, then yeah, it could be a difficult one. But I think we're full of confidence. Or the confidence is certainly coming back into the side now. We're playing with a lot more passion and aggression, and I think we're playing the kind of way Everton supporters like their Everton sides to play. I think it's the way Ronald Koeman wants us to play, high pressing and you know, making it difficult for the opposition when they're on the ball. And I think the penny is slowly but surely dropping with the players as to what Ronald actually wants. So I'm quietly confident that
this year
Premier League or not,
I hope so. Game. I hope so. It would be lovely, obviously, if we could win the FA Cup this year. And also, to be honest, you know, a decent run in the cup. You mentioned it there. You know, we're starting to put some results together now over this festive period. I'm pretty content as an Evertonian being in 7th at this stage of the. You know, given it's Koeman's first season, you know, a bit of a transitional period. Are you happy at the moment with the 7th place?
I think if we're really brutally honest with ourselves, I mean, of course we all want more. That's the nature of being a human being, the nature of being an Evertonian. We've got such a fantastic history, and there's an expectancy around the club. There always will be, and always has been. But I think if you look at it in a realistic form, the top 6 is pretty much what the top 6 should be, for whatever order, you know, based on, you know, the amount of money that's been spent over a number of years. You know, we're now in a position where allegedly we've got plenty of money to spend. I'm sure Ronald wants to do that, and we are. You're quite right. We're in a bit of a transitional period. If we spend that money wisely, if we can get some more top players coming into this football club, then we've got to push. Can we get into the top 6? Another couple of transfer windows, can we then be looking at Champions League football? It's not going to happen overnight. We're going to have to show a little bit more patience. We have done for an awful long time. We have to accept that. But, you know, I think 7th is pretty much where we should definitely be in and around. And if you have a good run of form, we're not discounting pushing into the Europa League, because you never know what happens. You win another 3 or 4 on the spin, all of a sudden things can change. So we don't, you know, not push on to try and get 6th, but realistically, I think we're probably around where we should be at this moment in time.
Cool. Okay, right. So if you're just joining us now, this is going live on Grand Old Team's Facebook page, and it's obviously live on mine as well. I'm with Graham Stuart. Many of you will be more than aware who Graham Stuart is. Some would refer to him as Everton royalty. And I know Graham, actually, incidentally, it's a bit mad for me, because I was that era where, so I was born in '89, and then I just don't quite remember the FA Cup. However, obviously I did see you in the latter years of the Everton career, the 2 seasons after that. And you were on my wall. In poster form, don't you know? You weren't.
Say, thank you. Let's get that clear.
And my mum's a Londoner as well, and I think she had a bit of a crush on you, Graham. To be
did
honest,
she?
mate.
Well,
Yeah,
you're making me blush. I hope you can't see
but,
that.
to be honest, my old man lets you off because you managed, you know, to lift the trophy with Everton.
Well, look, I absolutely adore playing for Everton Football Club. I mean, you know, to come back as an ambassador for the football club is a dream come true for me, because, you know, as you can tell from the accent, that I've never ever shifted in any way, shape or form. You know, we first started off at Chelsea, and then to come up to Everton, and for somebody like Howard Kendall, you know, our greatest ever manager, to want to sign me for this football club was a massive honour. So to come up and have, you know, relative success, some difficult times along the way, but also some success, was as good as it gets. And it is true. I mean, people say it, but, you know, once you're a Blue, you're always a Blue. It is a bit of a testament to Everton, isn't it? How you know, by you've just said there, you know, you're not a local lad, but you came up here and obviously played for Everton, played for Chelsea as well. You know, a big club. So and it's just that Everton's kept you here, so that's kind of testament to Everton in a way, isn't it? Of course it is. I mean, you know, we're the people's club, and we're the people's club because, you know, it's not just a throwaway remark. It's a fact. Everybody here is so friendly. Whenever I've come back to Goodison Park, I've always had a good reception from the supporters. I've always had a lovely reception from people behind the scenes. And you keep in touch with certain people. I mean, you know, footballers like ships in the night. I mean, everybody disappears off to different clubs and what have you. But every time I've ever come back to Goodison, it's always been a really, really friendly place to be in and around. And I've got some terrific memories. I've made some great friends, and I wouldn't have swapped it for the world, and I'm absolutely ecstatic to be back at the club on a full-time basis. That's good to hear, Graham. We're obviously happy to have you as well back at the club. So let's go to. In fact, there's a question there, because you kind of set it up for me in a way. And when you did come back, I think this was from. Let me have a look. It may have been from. It's from Twitter. Brian Cohen on Twitter. He says, "How did it feel when you scored for Charlton at Goodison and you were applauded?" Did that give you a bit of a warm feeling in a way? Well, it did. I mean, as I said, when your name's announced at the start of the game, you know, the crowd were terrific to me. They gave me a big round of applause, even though I was playing for the opposition. But I think the one we're referring to there is, the applause might have been something to do with the fact that we were 4-0 down Charlton at the time. So, you know, it's quite easy to applaud a team for scoring a consolation goal. But I think it was a penalty at the Park End, which I've got a bit of an affinity with anyway, because that's obviously that penalty against the Wimbledon in the Wimbledon game. But I stood up there. I was on the penalties for Charlton, so I couldn't get out of it. But I smashed it straight down the middle, 4-1, and the crowd gave me a little ripple. But I actually scored at the Gladys Street for Charlton, and we won 1-0. And I thought to myself, well, I couldn't even miss if I tried. I was only 2 yards out, so I tapped it in, and Charlton won that game 1-0. But I think that's the one. Honestly, I think that's the one that Brian's referring to there. It may not be. Brian, let us know if you're watching this. Obviously, let us know. But yeah, no. So that is quite nice. I mean, Stephen Naismith got something similar, didn't he? Yeah, I mean, Naisy got a ripple of applause. I mean, I'm not quite sure I agreed with that. We went 1-0 down in the cup, and he's getting a ripple of applause. But I don't mind it when we're 4-0 down. I can live with that. But
and when it's you scoring the goal, then you don't mind. Definitely.
Yeah, I don't mind that. But no, I mean, Evertonians have always been good to people who've been good for Everton. It's as simple as that, and I think we always will be. Right. Okay. Cool. So, some good words there from Diamond on Everton. Guys, if you're watching this, hello. We're live on Facebook via Grand Old Team,
and my page as well. Remember to give us your comments. I'm going to get through some of these in a little moment. Someone's saying you've got Hulk hands. I don't know if they're talking to you or me. I will pass that compliment on to.
It's definitely me.
It's hey, well, that's up to you guys to decide. Right, so on the forum then, York says if there was one player you think would improve our squad now from the 95 team, who would it be and why?
Well, it's a difficult one. I mean, I think, you could argue there was a few in the 95 side that could have stepped into our side now, and vice versa as well. But I think I'd have to go with Neville.
Right.
I mean, Nev was an absolute world-class operator. Simple as that. To see him in training was staggering. He'd been at 7:30 in the morning, Nev, and he lived in Llandudno, so it was like an hour and a half's drive in, and he was still there before anybody else. His dedication was something, to behold, and just to be part of it. He probably wasn't the goalkeeper he was, in the mid-80s, where he genuinely was world-class, but he was still one hell of a goalkeeper. He really, really was. So I think, position-wise, I think I'd take Nev.
Okay. And what player from the current squad would you have loved to have had in that 95 team?
Oh, again. See, people always turn around. The obvious one is turn around and say we want a goal scorer in your side.
Yeah.
So Ron, but he's not getting in my side because he might have outed me.
That's what I was going to say.
You're not in, Ron. Out you go.
Out you go, Ron. Luke.
But I'll think about it just to make sure we didn't upset the balance of the side. I mean, we had Anders Limpar as well as Mercurial on his day. But to keep the balance of the side, I think I'd have to put Gareth Barry in there because we had John Ebrell, Barry Horn, Joe Parkinson, all terrific players, real hard men and strong tacklers, and then did simple things with the ball. And I think Gareth would have fitted in quite nicely to that dynamic as well, because he's a clever individual, very intelligent player, and a few younger years as well. His legs were, they'd have gone a little bit quicker as well. So he would have been a perfect fit. But what an incredible player he is! 600 odd games and looks likely to get the Premier League all-time record. And you don't get that without being a real top player.
Yeah, do you know what? I've got friends who don't support Everton who talk to me about Gareth Barry, and I tell them, I said, when they ask me who are some of the best players you've seen at Everton, and I always say Gareth Barry, and they kind of look at me a bit silly, but I think you have to watch him week in and week out.
Yeah, you do. You have to recognise the intelligence of players as well. It's not always about how quick you can cover ground and how many goals you score or dynamic passes, but it's a job for the team. It's a team isn't just about one player who can score goals. It's about the dynamics of a team and making sure it all complements each other. He's an highly intelligent footballer. You ask any professional footballer, and they'll tell you how clever Gareth Barry is as a player.
Yeah. Right, now this one's from Rodu on the forum. He says, be honest, as you wouldn't, of course you'd be honest,
Always
Graham.
honest.
Do you secretly wish that your shot went in instead of hitting the bar in the final and dropping to ride out?
Crikey, don't I? Of course I would. I mean, no. I mean, at the time, I mean, Paul Rideout got me out of jail. I mean, it's not all of us who get a bobble at Wembley. It used to be it's a bowling green of a pitch now. In those days, it was getting a little bit bobbly.
I was going to say a bobble on Wembley now.
I know, it shouldn't have happened, should it? But no, it's one of them ones. It's silly, really, because they're the ones, if you scuff, they trickle in the bottom corner.
Right.
I had such a good connection on it, but too good, and it smashed the underside of the crossbar. Before I've got time to put my head in my hands, my strike partner, Paul Rideout's got me out of jail, and we've gone 1-0 up. So at the time, it's euphoria because you're 1-0 up in an FA Cup final, and then to go on and win it, and the after party, and it was great. Nowadays, in the cold light of day, would it be nice to turn around to my son and say, your dad scored the winner in the FA Cup final, and to have it on your CV? Yeah, of course I would. He'd probably hate it. But
who, your son?
He'd hate it.
Would he?
No, of course he would.
Why? Because you'd have. Does your son play football?
No, he's more of a rugby player. Yeah.
Okay, right.
He likes his rugby, but
he must be proud of his dad having an FA Cup win.
I think he is. Yeah, but he won't admit to that.
Right, fair enough.
He wants to make his own path in life.
Did Radal ever say to you, nice one for setting that one up for us or anything?
No, didn't give me any thanks.
Didn't he?
You got any idea how hard? Go out there on a Sunday morning and try and hit the bar and set your strike partner up. It's not easy,
No, I know. I can imagine. Right, loads of chemistry. Good username on the forum on GrandOldTeam says, how much of a mistake was it by the club to part company with Big Joe in 1997? And in your opinion, Graham, how much did that set Everton back?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I think it was a mistake. I think everybody would own up to that. The story is, I think Big Joe had gone in and he wanted to get Torre Andre Flo into the football club. And when you look back at that, that would have been a terrific signing for us.
Because he went and scored a fair few goals.
Yeah,
at
he
Chelsea.
did. He went to Chelsea and had a terrific time there. So I think that would have been a real good acquisition for us as a football club. But for whatever reason, the board wouldn't sanction it, and Joe just felt that, you know, if he wasn't making the decisions and they weren't going to back him, then what's the point in being a manager? And I'm sure Joe in some way regrets going, but he felt it was an untenable situation. I think it was a huge mistake by the club, because at that time we had a real good rapport, not only as players and the management staff, but as a football club. You know, you're winning silverware. We'd won the FA Cup, we'd won the Charity Shield, we'd finished 6th, you know, the next year, and it was just everything was going along swimmingly. You know, you're going on, you know, along the sea there, and it's all nice and calm, and the ship's going nicely, and all of a sudden we hit turbulent waters, and I think it was unnecessary. And it takes a little bit of a time to recover, because another manager comes in, he gets his own staff in, football personnel changes, that's the nature of the game, new managers want different players in, and it knocked us for a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it is a shame. So, St Domingo on the forum, next one says, why is it that sides in the 90s were able to beat Liverpool, and yet recent squads haven't been able to do that? What do you think, what was the difference?
Yeah, I think a lot of that's down to the nature of the game now. The game, I think, has become a lot more passive, and I think the Liverpool sides that we were playing against, if they played nowadays, they'd have won more derbies, because you couldn't make the tackles that we could make. We used to upset Liverpool. We used to love playing against Liverpool because we knew they didn't want to be kicked. They knew they didn't really want to get involved in a physical kind of game. Whether referees would have allowed that in the modern day game, I'm not so sure that they would. So we psychologically had built up an advantage over them, because they knew that for all their good football, we'd be pressing them, we'd get in their faces, we'd make tackles, we'd rattle their cages, and on top of that, we had good players who could score goals. We've gone to Anfield, Andrei Kanchelskis has scored 2 goals to win us the tie. We've had big Duncan Ferguson, who Ruddock never liked playing against. You know, we had a lot of good players, and for all the talk about the dogs of war and, you know, all this sort of tackling and hard work inside, that's not enough. You've got to be good players as well. We had plenty of good players who were prepared to put the hard work in as well, and that's ultimately what won us a lot of derbies in the mid-90s.
Yeah, hopefully that can change soon.
Well, I'd like to think
Graham,
so.
mate, I don't think I can take too much more.
Listen, I have to watch the same games as you. And I mean, look,
I can't do it.
The lads, are, you know, they want to change it as well. I mean, of course we do. We want to change that as a club, but the game's not just about 2 games during the season. You know, you judged over 38, but, you know, let's change it.
Let's change it.
We've got to change it sooner rather than later.
Guys, if you're watching this, hello. I'm with Graham Stuart in Goodison Park, right in the belly of the stadium. It's amazing being in it. It's rather hot in here, by the way, which I've just said to Graham before we went on air, that it's novel and nice to be warm in Goodison, but it is very hot, so forgive us if you just see us like sweating. If, by the way, if you're watching this, please like, share, maybe drop some Evertonians a line and let them know that we're live with Graham Stuart. Just got some comments here. Who would you like to see brought in by Greg McKinney there? McKinney. Who would you like to see brought in then, mate?
Greg, it's difficult, mate. I mean, I think January's a terrible time to buy. I mean, I think I would prefer to go down the loan road, and we've been relatively successful in the loan market over the last couple of transfer windows, and I just think it gives you as a club the chance to look at players, and the players to see if they're comfortable at Everton Football Club as well, without either side making too much commitment and us not spending silly money, because you know what January's like, 10 million, 20 million in January.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, if there's players out there and we can strengthen in whatever department, I think, you know, you look across the board, we want to strengthen in every single department if we possibly can. But you've got to get the right players in. You don't get players in for the sake of it. It's important that we pick out the right ones. If they're available, great, let's go and get them. If they're not, maybe go down the loan road. But I think the summer is a far more realistic target for us to get our top boys in.
I think you're right, Graham. I think there is kind of an anticipation, though, amongst supporters, as we've seen from the comment there, you know, that we are going to go out and maybe strengthen.
I mean, I can understand that from the supporters' point of view, because, you know, we haven't really spent too much. I mean, if you look at the sale of John Stones, then I think we're just about in credit, really, from what Ronald's already spent. I mean, for Idrissa Gueye to come into the football club for £7 million.
How good's he been, by the way?
It's been unbelievable,
amazing,
Idrissa. For, you know, you look at value for money, £7 million. Idrissa has more than made up for that already with some of his performances so far this season. But if we bought Idrissa in January, he'd have been 14 million quid. So you know, you get the kind of point I'm trying to make. You've got to sometimes just hold fire a little bit, and we're not doing too bad. You don't want to upset the dynamic of the squad as it is at this moment in time if you bring in too many too soon.
Right.
So I just think it's important that we, as much as we want to spend the money, we don't spend it unless it's on the right personnel.
Cool. Okay, right, let's get some more from Facebook then. Mark Rainford says, which youngster at the club do you think will go the furthest? We've got some talented youngsters, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very difficult with young players because there's peaks and troughs with them. You know, I mean, my old Chelsea manager, Bobby Campbell, said to me, he said, the only consistency with young players is their inconsistency. And there's a certain truth to that as well. I think if you look at the current crop of lads, then Tom Davis does lead the pack for me.
Yeah.
You know, he's got something about him. He's got that aggression about his game.
He wears his socks down here as well, which is quite cool, isn't it, Graham?
But
He's a cool guy.
There's a kind of little arrogance about that as well, which I don't dislike at all. He's not afraid to put his foot in. He doesn't care who he's playing up against. He doesn't suffer any falls, and he's technically very good as well. So I think for Tom, the test now is he started the game yesterday as well. Did very, very well. Can he go and play 2 on the spin, 3 on the spin, 4 on the spin, and have an impact from the first minute, as opposed to coming on for an hour, 70 minutes through a game when bodies are tiring a little bit and he looks like he's having more of an impact, if you like. I think Tom will recognise that he's got to get in that starting 11 on a regular basis, and we'll see him push on from there, and then he'll believe that he's part of that first team squad, and I think he'll grow, because he's certainly, for me, leading the pack at the moment.
Right. That's good to know. So Danny Jones says, name 4 players from the current squad you'd have in your team for a 5-a-side alongside you, Graham.
Oh, I'm in, am I?
You're in, mate, you're in.
Oh, we won't get very far if I'm in. There's a few pounds gone on these days.
I'm sure you can still do a job, Graham,
I'll try. Well, obviously I'm going to have a keeper, so I've got to go for Big Martin, haven't I? Stecklenburg.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, 5-a-side goals, he's a big lad, Martin.
Joel's a big lad as well, though, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, Joel is a big lad as well, and a really good shot stopper, so it's a bit of a toss-up, but, you know, I'll go Martin just for the sake of having a goalkeeper in.
Okay.
I need a little bit of balance as well, so if I have Bainesy on the left of midfield and me on the right...
Right.
I've got to put the big man up top. I'm going to have Ron because you've got to score your goals and a big target man, drop the ball into him. Slightly controversially, maybe, because somebody will say you've got to have a defender, but I'd put Gareth there.
Right.
So Gareth's played at the back as well, but he's a ball player as well and clever thinking. So I think in a 5-a-side game...
He'd be all right, wouldn't he, then? Yeah, I can see what you've done there, yeah. Good work.
I'm clever in my life, you know.
I didn't doubt your footballing intellect, Graham. You certainly played at a better level than me. I mean, I did all right at Sunday League.
No, we've all been there. Don't worry about that. That's fine.
You remember those days on Acme Marshes or whatever?
I could be back there soon.
Right. Okay. Let's see what else we've had to come through then now. Just have a look here, Lee Downing. Guys, if you are watching this as well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Oh no, what are we doing there? Right, we'll go back down to the bottom. Right, okay, we'll just get some more then from, I think we've got one more from Facebook. This is a good one, actually. Remember, guys, just quickly to do another plug again. If you're watching this, remember to share, like, and comment as well. Give us your comments underneath. I'll try and get through some of them in a minute. It's got some preordained questions written down here. So the first one, the last one from Facebook actually is Jason Russell. He says, "What's the funniest incident you witnessed as a player with Everton?"
And you really want me to say that on Facebook Live?
This is the place to do it, Graham.
I'll be in all kinds of trouble.
It'll just be between me and you, and then
and however many watching. Yeah, exactly. And that's my problem. Oh, it's so difficult. I mean, there's so many.
You had some characters though, right?
I've had some terrific characters. I mean, Neville Southall was hilarious. I mean, I loved Anders Limpar. Anders was a funny guy as well. You know, some of these people you expect to be a bit straight down the line. Some of them are crazy off the park. I mean, I'll never forget Brett Angel. I mean, Brett, believe you me, he was a terrific guy. But to see him, he lost his contact lenses in a game. And I remember him crawling around the pitch, just looking. And you've never seen anything like it in your life. A professional footballer crawling, looking through the blades of grass for his contact lens. I mean, that was funny. But I mean, if I'm totally honest with you, all the hilarious stuff is
unfitting for Facebook. Okay,
you've got to forgive me for that one.
That's all right. We'll forgive you, Graham. No, of course. I mean, you do work for the club now, so you got a job. I know. I do apologise, mate. Right. Okay. So we already asked that one from Brian on Twitter. We've got Michael Goodison here, very Icelandic sounding surname. Maybe he is Icelandic. What forward players would you bring in if it was up to him in January? In fact, actually, we've already kind of done that one. We've already said, who we should potentially bring in. Let's see if we've got any more on here. Then now, how long have we done? I'm getting just enjoying this.
Fire away if you're enjoying it. I'm
right,
enjoying it.
We've got. How do you think? Let's have a look. Right, Gerard Delafeu, actually, just quickly. What do you think about Jerry? Do you think he'll stay? I mean, it sounds like he's going to go out on loan.
I think he's very difficult. I mean, it's tough. I could understand, Gerard wanting to go out and play football, because I think it must be unbelievably frustrating. And if I was still playing, I'd be, really frustrated to not be playing on a regular basis. So it's great to have big squads. It's unbelievably difficult to keep those players happy, because only 11 can start any particular game. I think we've got a good few wingers in the setup as well. But Jerry's one of those players that he can make a difference and he can have an impact, but he's also a little bit inconsistent as well. So at this moment in time, it wouldn't surprise me if he did have to go out on loan and play some football. But I'd love to see him. I think when he's in full flow and he's confident and he's whipping those crosses in for Romelu Lukaku and taking people on, if he can become more consistent as a footballer, I still think he's got a real use for us at the club.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all want to see him succeed. It would be a shame if we were to lose him.
Yeah.
But you're right. Definitely needs to potentially improve. Okay, so let's have a look. Here's an interesting one. This is from Carl Donovan. He says, do you agree? Have you seen Stephen Gerrard's comments about Ross Barkley, just saying how, maybe potentially needs a little bit more support? Did you hear them? Did you agree?
I'd heard them. I mean, look, in fairness, they're asked a question and they've got to come out with an answer.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with that answer, personally, no, I don't agree with it, because I think that I feel sorry for Ross, because every man and his dog has got a comment on Ross Barkley and what he needs to do. And I think, it's very difficult in the modern day world. I mean, we're live on Facebook now, and so social media is a fantastic tool, but it's also a very difficult tool if you're the person being spoken about all the time. It's very difficult to get away from it all. And I'm more than happy, and I totally understand. I've been in a situation myself where you're entitled to give your opinion, but I think when you're tearing down people on a regular basis, I think it could go too far.
I agree.
And I think there's too many people who've got too much to say about Ross, and Ross just needs to listen to Ronald Koeman and the people around him at Everton, because Ross is at his best when he's off the cuff a little bit as well. He's just one of those talents that he's just got to let his natural ability shine through. If you keep listening to too many people and too many opinions, your mind becomes pickled.
Yeah.
And I think that's happened to Ross a little bit at times, where he's probably thinking, well, who's right and who's wrong, and should I pass it now, should I run with it now? And all of a sudden you don't do what your natural talent wants you to do.
Do you think the frustration is born out of the fact that as Evertonians, because he's one of our own, he's a local lad, he's a scout that we just desperately want him to do well?
We're all screaming out, the Evertonians love their local heroes, and Ross has been talked about for an awful long time. We've got to back him. Look, there's times he's frustrated. He's probably frustrated himself. He's frustrated us as supporters, as coaching staff. But who hasn't as a player? But because Ross is a local lad, and because he's a talked about character, it seems it's times 10, times 20 about him. So I think we just need to let Ross play his football. He needs to just carry on and listen to as I said, the staff at Everton Football Club, his coach Ronald Koeman, and just let his natural ability, shine through, because there's no doubt in it. You look at some of the things he can do, on a football pitch, and there's not an awful lot of other people who can do them.
Cool. Yeah, agree. So maybe two last questions. And one of them is, how often do Evertonians try and buy you a beer for the goals against Wimbledon?
That is actually a bonus ball. I've been bought many a beer over the years, actually, and I'm very, very grateful. And please feel free to continue doing it.
There you go. We do owe you a live supply of lager for that. Mate, the two goals. How when he took that penalty in the 81st minute against Wimbledon? It was late on.
No. The penalty was actually just before half time. The winner was in the 81st minute. That scintillating strike from the edge of the box.
Right, sorry, I've got it a bit before my time, so I've got him around. But how, in a game like that, how just monumental in terms of importance that was to Evertonians? How did it feel taking that penalty? I can't even imagine.
It was scary. Somebody actually showed me a picture of the penalty today in a book, and it's like the park ends down. You know, the stand was just in the process of being built, the foundations were in and what have you. But you know, I never ever forget it, and I say to all the people, I put the penalty on the ball on the spot, and I looked up, and all I could see were people swinging in the trees. It was a bit really surreal, scenario, because obviously the attendance level was down because you know, I think it was only 31,000 at the time, and it was a huge game, and everybody wanted to be there to support us through it, and it was a frightening experience. But to be 2-0 down, I mean, Goodison Park, I've never heard it so quiet in my entire life. And there was a time when I think all of us in our heart of hearts thought, you know, we're going down.
So was there a time though when you got yourselves ahead where you thought we're staying up?
Well,
when was that?
And I think that's why in some respects the penalty was really important, because I'd hate to have taken it at 2-2 because the pressure would have been through the roof.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But at 2-0 it was kind of more of a scenario of we need to get back in the game. You need to bury this because we've got to give ourselves a lifeline. So to see it hit the back of the net was fantastic. And we went in at half-time 2-1 down. There's a massive difference to being 2-1 down and 2-0 down at half-time, because all of a sudden you get a little bit of magic from Barry Horn. And Barry scores a 25-yarder half volley straight in the top corner. I mean, Barry's probably done that twice in his entire life, but he saved it for that day, and it was brilliant to get to 2-2. All of a sudden the whole dynamic of the game changed, the atmosphere around Goodison Park totally changed, and you know, they wheeled it in. And I mean, the goal, you know, I mean, it's probably the worst goal in the world I've ever scored, but certainly the best goal in the world. And I think the old Howard Kendall came out with a classic quote after in the Bayern Munich game to the 85 lad and said, look, get it forward, blah blah blah, Gladys Street will suck it in.
Yeah.
And I think the Gladys Street certainly sucked my shot in, because it barely got over the line that afternoon, but thankfully it did, and you know, we've moved on.
And one final question for me, this one that I want to ask. What was Joe Royle like to play under? Brilliant.
I enjoyed my time with Joe Royle, and I have to give a mention to Willie Donaghy, his coach, as well. I mean, they were chalk and cheese, Willie. Willie was, I felt, a really, really good coach, but quite a dour kind of character, very quiet and what have you. But whereas Joe was totally, you know, the opposite. He was the jokey guy and used to come out and have a little bit of banter with the lads and everything, while Willie took all the serious stuff. But it was weird, because when Joe first came into the club, I didn't play for about 6 weeks, because he wanted to change certain areas. He felt we were too easy to beat, and I think I had to sort of prove to Joe through training and reserve games or whatever that I was going to put my foot in, and I could play in the side that he wanted to play in, and the way we wanted to play, and that totally turned for me. And he was brilliant, and I enjoyed it. And once he realised that I was there to mix it and I could play a bit as well, then he, you know, I never looked back with him. But certainly he was an Evertonian who knew exactly what this football club required. He'd been there as a player, he'd gone back as a manager, and he knew exactly what the Goodison faithful expected from us, and he made sure we knew about it as well. And as I say, it was a really, really, probably the most enjoyable period football-wise that I had at the football club.
Okay, cool. Let's have a look now. A lot of questions about the current side. Let's have a look. There you go. I tell you what, actually, Graham, I've got one final question. Actually, this will be a good one. Then we'll choose a winner from the ones that we've had. That night you won the cup in '95. What did you do?
Well, we were.
It was a good night.
It was a really good night. It was a good morning as well. We'd gone back to the Royal Lancaster Hotel. Now, win, lose or draw, we had a do set up back at the Royal Lancaster. All our families were invited, so we just went back there and did what we did pretty well at the time as well. We weren't bad on the park, but we were pretty good off it as well, in terms of team bonding and what have you, should we say. But we went back and celebrated and got monumentally drunk and just enjoyed ourselves. I mean, I think Dave Watson went to bed with the FA Cup.
Did he?
In between him and his missus, when the FA Cup was there, and who wouldn't?
Yeah,
we had a great time. We let our hair down and just generally enjoyed it with our families and friends and what have you. And then we got back up in the morning. I think we jumped back on the bus about 10 o'clock in the morning after a 2 or 3 hours kip, headed back to Merseyside. I think one of the funniest things, we had to stop at, I think it was the Hilton Park services on the M6, when we dived into Burger King. FA Cup in the hand, and honestly, the people's faces just there, just at the service station, and all of a sudden Everton's first team walked in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, it was surreal. But
is there any Evertonians knocking around at that point?
Yeah, I mean, well, this is Evertonians. There's Evertonians everywhere. But no, you know, obviously a few supporters had stayed down for the night to celebrate as well, and they were coming back. But plenty of pictures to be taken, you know, up at the services, and then we got back for the Open Top Tour.
Right.
Which, must admit, I can't remember too much about. But no, look, you don't win too much too often. Yeah. So when you do, you celebrate it.
Yeah, yeah. So out of the questions that I've asked you then, Graham, which one do you think deserves?
Well, it's a tough one because it's. I mean, the obvious questions are who are we going to sign, and you know, who's the best player you play with, and all that sort of stuff. But I quite like the five-a-side team because it got me thinking.
Okay, so that's Danny Jones then on the Facebook. If you're watching, Danny, you have 1, 2 tickets. That one then? You said that one?
Quite happy with that one. Danny, you're more than welcome. Look forward to seeing you at Goodison Park. Okay,
cool. Well, Graham, really appreciate it, mate. Thanks for your time. Really enjoyed this. And yeah, thanks for coming on to Grand Old Team. Guys, remember, I'm going to post a link in the bottom, and it'll be to a link to buy tickets for Saturday if you don't have them yet. Obviously, they're a reduced price for this one, so get on and purchase some tickets and get down to Goodison Park, as they say, on Saturday. Right, cool. I just thought the camera was going to switch off automatically, but it's not. It's just Facebook Live, so thank you very much for tuning in.